Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about Chinese food and culture.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it should be fun. We have a couple of really interesting sources.
Oh, cool.
One is all about what the source calls the weirdest foods in China, and the other one is a street food tour.
Wow, so we've got kind of both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how those two perspectives come together to paint a bigger picture of Chinese food.
I'm excited to dive in. What kind of weird foods are we talking about?
Well, it's all relative, right? But this source mentions things like deep-fried spiders,
Okay.
sea cucumbers, fried centipedes.
Whoa,
I mean,
that's definitely different.
yeah, can you imagine having to explain that to someone who's never seen it before?
No, it's pretty wild. It makes you realize that what might seem weird in one culture could be totally normal in another.
Totally. And it's all about perspective. And, thinking about it now, this could actually be a great opportunity for those of you listening who are trying to learn English.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about all the vocabulary you could use to describe these foods. Crispy, chewy, earthy, salty.
I see your point.
Yeah. And there's no better way to remember a new word than by associating it with a really vivid image.
That's true. The weirder the image, the better.
Exactly. So this source also talks about a dish that was once considered like a symbol of wealth and luxury in China, but is now super controversial.
Oh, which one is that?
Shark fin soup.
Right, I've heard about that.
Yeah, the source explains how it used to be like a staple at banquets and weddings, a real symbol of honor.
Now.
Well, there's a lot more awareness now about the environmental impact of shark finning. So the dish has become very controversial.
That makes sense. It's interesting how the perception of a dish can change so much over time.
It is. It really shows you how food and culture are always evolving.
Totally. And for our listeners, think about how you could talk about this idea in English.
Yeah, you could use phrases like shifting perspectives or evolving traditions.
Exactly.
Okay, so are you ready to move on from weird to seriously delicious?
Always.
Okay, good. Because our next source takes us on a street food tour. And oh my goodness, it sounds amazing. It's a video by Mark Wiens, and even just listening to the transcript, you feel like you're right there in the market.
I love his videos. He's got such a great energy.
He does, and he tries some really interesting dishes. Like there are these noodles called Bing Bang noodles.
Bing Bang noodles.
Yeah, they're like these wide, built-like noodles tossed in this spicy chili oil.
That sounds incredible.
And he described the whole experience. He talks about how they peel raw garlic at the table and how satisfying it is to eat noodles out of a giant bowl.
It's like you're right there with him.
Exactly. And this is where your listening comprehension skills can really come in handy. Even if you don't understand every single word, you can still get a sense of the atmosphere and what he's feeling.
Right. You can pick up on those nuances and understand the overall meaning.
That's such a crucial part of language learning. It's all about context.
Okay, so what else does he try?
Oh, there's this dish called Ru Mo, which is often called a Chinese burger.
Interesting. A Chinese burger. I wonder what that's like.
It's juicy pork belly in this thick, crusty bread.
Okay, now that's making me hungry.
I know, right? It's a great example of how different cultures can have their own spin on familiar concepts.
Totally. Like a burger in China is going to be very different from a burger in America, but they're both based on that same idea of a satisfying sandwich.
Exactly. And that's what makes cultural exchange so cool. You start to see the connections and appreciate the diversity.
It's all about finding that common ground.
So he also tries this incredible gourd chicken.
Gourd chicken? What's that?
It's literally a whole chicken cooked inside of a gourd.
Wow, that sounds like a special occasion kind of dish.
Yeah, and think about all the vocabulary learning. Braised, tender, juicy. You can use those words to describe so many different foods.
That's a good point. I'm always looking for new ways to expand my food vocabulary.
And we've been talking about a lot of savory dishes, but he also tries some sweet treats. Like there's this yellow soybean porridge.
Porridge. I usually think of porridge as sweet.
Yeah, same here. But this one's savory. It's described as thick and almost like biscuits and gravy.
Wow, so many surprises.
I know, right? And then the last dish we have to mention is drunken shrimp.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that?
Raw shrimp marinated in this super spicy chili sauce.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense.
It does. And it really shows you how bold Chinese cuisine can be.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to ask our listeners a question.
Yeah.
If you could try one of the street food dishes that we talked about, which one would it be and why?
Yeah, think about all those amazing descriptions and imagine yourself right there in the market.
We'll be back in part 2 to continue our exploration.
See you then.
Welcome back. Did you guys pick a favorite street food dish yet?
So many good choices.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, all this talk about street food has got me thinking, what about breakfast? Like, what do people in China eat for breakfast?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And actually, our next source takes us on a virtual breakfast tour. Yeah, it's from a YouTube channel called Get to Know China, and it really shows you how diverse breakfast can be in different parts of China.
So it's not all dumplings and noodles.
Not necessarily. This video actually starts with the host talking about how some viewers were surprised to see so many fried foods in her previous video about breakfast in China.
That's funny.
I know, right? But she's really good about engaging with her audience, and she explains that there are tons of different breakfast options. So in this video, she's focusing on some of the less oily choices.
Okay, I'm curious now. What kind of stuff does she show?
Well, she takes us to this bustling breakfast street and starts pointing out all these different stalls.
Okay.
There are savory pancakes, steaming bowls of noodles, fragrant soy milk. It's really amazing.
Wow. And while she's showing us all this food, she's using a ton of great vocabulary.
Oh yeah, definitely. She uses words like crispy, flaky, savory, sweet tang, all those descriptive words that really paint a picture in your mind.
And don't forget those action verbs too.
Right. Stir fry, simmer, steam, braise. Those are all essential for talking about cooking.
They are. And listeners, don't just listen passively. Try to repeat these words out loud. Practice using them in your own sentences.
Exactly. Make the language come alive.
Okay, so as we're walking along this breakfast street with the host, we come across this vendor making these incredible egg pancakes.
Oh, yeah, those look so good.
I know. She explains how the batter is spread out on this hot griddle, and then the egg is cracked on top, and it all cooks together to make this crispy, savory pancake.
I love how she breaks the whole process down into steps.
Me too. It's like she's giving you a mini cooking lesson.
It is. And then later on, we see this stall selling soybean paste, which is apparently a breakfast staple in northern China.
Soybean paste for breakfast.
That's interesting.
I know, right? It just goes to show you how different breakfast can be in different parts of China.
It's all about those regional variations.
Totally. And then there are these chive pancakes.
Chive pancakes. I've never had those before. They look amazing. The host really emphasizes how important it is to make the dough soft and pliable so you can roll it out thin and fill it with lots of chives.
The bigger the filling, the better it tastes.
That's what she said.
Which actually got me thinking about how food preferences can be so subjective.
Yeah.
You know, what one person loves, another person might not like at all.
Yeah, that's true. It's important to be respectful of everyone's tastes, even when we're exploring new cuisines.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we see these fragrant sauce pancakes, noodles made with this fascinating noodle-making machine.
It's crazy how efficient they are with these things.
And then there's this dish called shaobing, which is this sesame seed-crusted flatbread
Oh yeah, that one looks incredible.
filled with braised beef.
Now that's a breakfast I could get behind.
And then we see this vendor making this dish where a crispy bun is filled with savory braised meat.
Ooh, the contrast of texture.
I know. The crispy bun and the tender meat sounds amazing.
And then as we're wrapping up our tour, we see the host buying some zongzi.
Those are the pyramid-shaped rice dumplings, right?
Yep, wrapped in bamboo leaves.
The host explains that they're traditionally eaten during the Dragon Boat Festival.
Which is a great example of how food is often tied to cultural celebrations.
Absolutely. It's a way to connect with history and heritage.
Now, before we move on, I want to point out something about this video. The host uses a lot of really good transition phrases.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like, next up, or moving on to, or now let's take a look at.
I see what you mean.
These are really helpful phrases for guiding the listener and creating a smooth flow.
And they're great phrases to practice for anyone who wants to improve their English fluency.
Definitely. Okay, so are you ready for our final source?
Bring it on.
This one's a video called Top 10 Most Popular Chinese Foods.
Ooh, a top 10 list. I love those.
Me too! It's a great way to get a quick overview of some of the most iconic dishes.
And it's easy to remember.
Exactly. So let's dive in and see what we find. All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive, and we're about to explore the top 10 most popular Chinese foods.
Okay, let's hear it. I'm ready for some more deliciousness.
And hopefully some more great vocabulary too.
Always.
So the video kicks off the list with Yangzhou fried rice at number 10.
Fried rice classic.
Yeah, and it's all about that balance, fluffy rice, colorful veggies, savory protein.
It's delicious.
The video really emphasizes the importance of using fresh ingredients.
Makes sense. You want those flavors to really pop.
Exactly. And at number 9, we have sweet and sour pork.
Ooh, another classic. I love sweet and sour pork.
It's a crowd pleaser for sure.
Yeah.
And this video actually does a really good job of explaining the history of the dish and why it's so popular.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like it talks about the balance of sweet and tangy flavors, the crispy texture of the pork, and the vibrant presentation.
I can almost taste it.
All right, moving on to number 8, we have spring rolls, or chunwan in Mandarin.
Chunwan.
Yeah, those crispy little rolls filled with all sorts of goodies.
So good.
The video explains how they're made with these thin rice paper wrappers, and then they're deep fried until they're golden and crispy.
My mouth is watering.
All right, next up at number 7 is chow mein.
Chow mein stir-fried noodles.
Yeah, another classic. And this video really highlights those quick cooking techniques that are so important in Chinese cuisine.
You gotta have that woke, right?
Exactly. And coming in at number 6 is kung pao chicken.
Ooh, spicy.
That's right. It's a Sichuan dish known for its fiery kick.
What makes it so spicy?
Well, it uses Sichuan peppercorns, which create this unique numbing sensation.
Interesting.
And then, of course, you've got the chili peppers and the savory sauce.
Okay, my taste buds are ready.
Now, for number 5, we have something truly special, xiaolongbao.
Xiaolongbao. What's that?
They're soup dumplings.
Soup dumplings.
Yeah, so imagine these little delicate dumplings, and inside each one is a pocket of savory broth.
Oh, wow. I need to try those.
So the video actually shows the whole process of making them. It's quite intricate.
Sounds like a labor of love.
It is. And then at number 4, we have dim sum.
Dim sum. I love dim sum.
So too. It's such a fun experience. You know, all those little bite-sized dishes?
It's perfect for sharing.
Yeah, and the video really highlights that social aspect of dim sum. You know how it's often enjoyed with family and friends in these bustling tea houses.
And there's so much variety.
Exactly. You can get everything from savory dumplings to sweet pastries.
Okay, what's next?
At number 3, we have mapo tofu, another spicy Sichuan dish.
More spice. Bring it on.
This one features soft tofu in a fiery sauce made with ground meat chili bean paste and, of course, those Sichuan peppercorns.
I'm sensing a theme here.
The video describes the flavor as mala, which basically means numbing and spicy.
Sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way. All right, moving on to number 2, we have hot pot.
Hot pot. That's one of my favorites.
It's so fun and interactive.
Yeah, everyone gets to cook their own food.
The video explains how you have this big pot of simmering broth in the middle of the table, and then you just add whatever ingredients you want.
Meat, seafood, veggies, noodles, you name it.
It's the perfect way to customize your meal.
And to spend time with friends and family.
Totally. Okay, and finally, the number 1 most popular Chinese food is...
Drum roll, please.
Peking duck.
Peking duck. Yes. That's a classic for a reason.
The video talks about how the duck is air-dried to get that crispy skin, and then it's roasted to perfection.
I can practically smell it.
And it's usually served with thin pancakes, scallions, cucumbers, and a sweet bean sauce.
Such a delicious combination of flavors and textures.
It really is a culinary masterpiece.
So there you have it, the top 10 most popular Chinese foods.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did from the weirdest foods to the most popular dishes.
It's been a delicious journey.
And we learned so much new vocabulary along the way.
For those of you listening who are learning English, remember the key is to keep exposing yourself to the language in different ways.
Like through food.
Exactly. The more you explore, the more you learn.
So keep practicing. Stay curious and never be afraid to try something new.
This is Learn English Fluent signing off.
Until next time, happy learning.